Just to tell.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah.
I'll call the meeting to order on Tuesday, December 2nd. This is the village board work session. We have a number of matters to cover in the work session, then we will adjourn and start our regular board meeting. If you'll all notice, and I think you all have by now, that our monitors and our cameras and our microphones are all very different. Judd and Greg and Callie have been in here for a long time to get this system in Brandy up and working. I want to thank you. It will allow us to have Zoom and allow us to conduct our meeting. It may not be quite as smooth as you're normally used to, but be patient. With that, they also, at my direction, unless the board jumps up and down after 2 years of babying the system along, I've just said, bring us some estimates on fixing the system or replacing it. So I think we need to look at that in order to continue using the system and not lose staff. So tonight we will share our mics. We will try to get through this with no problems. If anybody has a question or needs something, let us know. There are a couple of things that we need to do tonight, but let's start with roll call. And I think Callie has it.
Yep.
And then we'll move to announcements. I don't have any other than the one I just made. I'd like to do them early. So are there any other announcements? Bill, do you have something? Okay, discussion items. We're gonna start with, if it's ready, 4.1, is everyone here and present for the Mountain Bike University Alliance park presentation?
I see on our Zoom, we've got Autumn Larson, Jeremiah and Rachel there. And they may have other folks. So we've been working, this is one of our university projects for the year. We've been working with University Alliance. This particular one, we have 2 different tracks, no pun intended, happening for mountain biking. This one is the environmental concern. And these students did a really good job of drafting an environmental document for us. So we've worked, Greg and I and Reese worked with Alex Tash, Autumn Larson, Cassidy Maya Jimenez, Rachel Gray, Jeremiah Israel Masoki, Samafumu, and Jessica Ray Human. Hope I said all their names right. So we've got, I think they're all here. I saw there's 2 Jeremiahs here, and there's 2 of you together in one. So you guys have, I think you should be able to share if you have I don't have the draft document, I can bring it up, but I don't know if you made changes since what you shared with us, if we sent back our concerns or whatnot. Or if you have a PowerPoint to share.
Yeah, we do have slides to share. I'm not sure which order we're going in.
Jeremiah, I hope I got your name all right.
Yes, you did.
Right.
Yes, you did. You did spectacular. Thank you.
Good.
All right, so are we sharing first?
Yeah, you guys can share the screen and then run through what you put together for the board.
Just so you know, our capabilities are different tonight, so.
We can see your screen, so you should be good.
All right.
What is your progress?
All right. Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know us, Judd just gave us a little bit of an introduction, but we are students from UW-Madison, and we've been working with Judd, Greg, and Reese throughout the semester for conservation planning class as part of the University Alliance and our environmental conservation master's program. So our team includes Alex, Jess, Autumn, Rachel, Jeremiah, and my name is Cassidy. Today we're talking about the Mountain Biking Trail Conservation Plan. A little look at our agenda. We'll go over the introduction and site history. We will talk about the scope and vision that we prepared. Then we'll go into threats, goals, strategies. We'll look at some results chains, monitoring, and the future looking forward.
All right. Giving you a brief site history. Since 2015, the village of DeForest has been considering sites for a mountain bike trail. The initial land parcel designated for the trail was abandoned due to concerns over environmental impact in the area. In 2015, the Yahar River Habitat and Streamback Restoration Project was started, and boardwalk trails were put in place along the riverbanks. Looking at a new proposal for the mountain bike trail was included in the 2023 Village Strategic Action Plan, where the current land parcel for the mountain bike trail was acquired in 2024.
All right, so looking towards our scope, for the purposes of this project, a scope includes the broad parameters that create a baseline from which future decisions will be made. The scope of our plan is place-based, with targets including the wetland, the woodland, the stream quality, and mountain biking recreational value as a human target. We chose a place-based scope because this has a geographic focus. So our scope that we came up with at the start of the semester was to identify conservation priorities and provide mitigation solutions for the parcel of land intended for mountain biking recreation development. Continuing on to our vision, project's vision is the description of the desired state that a project is working to achieve. So the vision that we wrote is to preserve the ecological integrity of the area for future generations, for the mountain biking recreation value to the community, DeForest, and the larger Madison region.
So once we identified our targets we wanted to focus on, the wetland, woodland, stream quality, recreational value targets, we identified some of the main threats facing those targets. In this context, what we mean by threats are the human-caused factors that could have the potential to degrade the things we're trying to protect. So identifying these threats helped us understand the ecological context and helped us form our strategies around these factors that exist. First, we think climate change could have some longer term impacts, especially on the stream. So these first two threats listed here have to do with human-caused climate change. Warming temperatures of the stream can affect trout reproductive success and nutrient levels. Additionally, Wisconsin has been experiencing increased precipitation due to climate change, and that can change the hydrology, increase erosion, and exacerbate the next threat, which is urban stormwater runoff. The site is surrounded by development, including paved surfaces, so runoff from precipitation events is going to flow into the wetland and into the stream, carrying with it sediments and pollutants. Now that there are going to be more people there as well with the development of the trail, littering could become more of a problem. And then other common issues with trail use are public behaviors like biking off trail or experiencing conflicts around multi-use. So that all goes into trail etiquette. Domesticated animals are a big stressor in these kinds of urban green spaces. Free-ranging cats are thought to be the single greatest anthropogenic source of mortality for birds and mammals in the US. And now with the trail, people will likely be bringing dogs as well. These have been shown to have a negative effect on bird abundance and diversity, even when they're kept on leash. And then the final major concern is if there isn't sufficient management and monitoring at the site. The site is heavily invaded with buckthorn and other invasive species. And once bikers are using the area, erosion will become more of an issue. So these factors require an ongoing investment of time and resources to mitigate. And we see this as a big opportunity to not just maintain the site, but really improve it for future generations.
Hello, I'm Alex. So our next section is on goals. There are four primary goals that we've identified for this conservation plan. The first is our goal of mountain biking recreational value, of course. The DeForest mountain biking team and the community as a whole are our primary audience for the project. So we wanted our goal to quantify their opinions and feelings about the trail as they have previously in public surveys. Secondly, we focused on the woodland, the habitat through which the majority of the trail will be built. This part of the plot is thick with buckthorn, as just mentioned, so our goal is in restoring it is the woodland centers around invasive removal of buckthorn and other species. Third, we looked at the wetland ecosystem, which floods seasonally and which we primarily classified as a sedge meadow. This is where we saw the majority of plant diversity within a plot. So our goal here reflects an opportunity to improve upon that diversity with native planting. We believe that the biodiversity around the stream will both add to its natural beauty and protect the water quality when flooding or runoff occurs. And last but not least is the stream itself. In our discussions with Judd and Greg, they both emphasize the ecological and recreational value of the Class 2 trout stream within the village. So in determining our goal for the stream moving forward, we've decided to use the WDNR's trout stream guidelines as they assess many of the threats just previously mentioned, like erosion, potential pollution, and warming water temperatures.
Hi,
Can
I'm
I
Rachel.
Can you guys slow down and enunciate? It's very hard with our current mic system to understand what you're saying. So speak slowly and enunciate a lot.
Okay, thank you. And let me know if I'm still hard to hear as I get into my slide. So here are our strategies for how we can meet these goals. Our first two strategies are erosion prevention and maintaining canopy cover above the stream. These two things will help maintain quality trout habitat. Tree cover above the stream will help keep water temperatures cooler, which is especially important as the warming effects of climate change increase in the coming years. Trout are also very sensitive to too much sediment in the water, and since mountain biking will create soil erosion, putting erosion mitigation structures between the stream and the bike path is really important. An example of this might be to strategically place rocks to slow down sediment from washing down the trail into the stream. Our third strategy is installing informational signage, which is designed to make sure that visitors are safe and happy. We want the trail to be friendly to pedestrians as well as bikers, which means that people need to follow safety guidelines. We want to avoid conflict between visitors and remind people to stay on the trail to prevent off-trail erosion. Additionally, to help monitor activities along the trail, we think a QR code on a sign is a great way to get public feedback. How that works is visitors can scan the code with their phones and submit feedback to the city website and report any safety concerns that they have noticed. Our fourth strategy is sustained property maintenance. This one targets a little bit of everything. Included in this strategy are ways to monitor for erosion, remove invasive species like buckthorn, and just overall create a place that's suitable for mountain biking, wildlife, and for anyone who wants to enjoy nature. And our last strategy is creating riparian buffer zones, which will help protect the stream and the wetland from stormwater runoff and rain flowing from the surrounding urban area. A riparian buffer zone is just the term for the vegetation around the stream bank, and that vegetation is really important for filtering out pollutants from the water. So we want to make sure that the stream has its normal natural protection around it from the surrounding environment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Autumn. And please let me know as well if I'm going too fast or if you can't hear me. So we're going to move on now to a couple of results chains. And so results chains are something that we have connected to a few of our strategies, and they are graphs that show how each strategy is connected to one or more of our target goals. So each results chain starts with a strategy and then shows how it leads to these hypothesized intermediate results, which then lead to threat reduction. And both of these are linked to actions and monitoring actions, which you can see on the bottom here in the yellow and purple boxes. And the threat reduction finally results in the accomplishment of the target goal. So this first results chain has to do with our strategy of installing informational signage and how it links to our recreational value target goal. So, of course, the strategy, installing informational signage. Signage will be created with multi-use rules, and this is linked to the action of course, installing the signage at the trailheads. This will lead to people being aware of and thus being more likely to follow the rules. And this is linked to the monitoring action of the staff monitoring the website to check for complaints. Then this will lead to the threat reduction of reduced conflict between bikers and hikers, accompanied by the monitoring action of quarterly walks to inspect trail use. And just a little bit more on these monitoring actions. We will explain these more later on in the presentation. So, and then of course, this will lead to, we hope, our target being accomplished, achieving an 80% trail user satisfaction rate by the end of 2029. The second results chain that we'd like to show to you today shows the relationship between our strategy of sustained property maintenance and our woodland target goal. So the strategy of sustained property maintenance will lead to the intermediate result of buckthorn being monitored and removed, connected to the action of the cutting back of buckthorn and treating the cut stems with herbicide. This will lead to the threat reduction of the buckthorn encroachment ceasing, and is connected to the monitoring action of contractors visiting annually to reassess the buckthorn situation and control it as needed. And this will hopefully lead to the accomplishment of our woodland target goal of buckthorn being reduced to less than 5% by spring 2031.
All right, so next we're going to look at the future after the trail's established. Our monitoring plan includes a variety of activities taking place at regular intervals throughout the year, all carried out by DeForest staff or contractors. First, we are looking to do weekly maintenance checks where a staff member who's collecting trash for the site looks at signs of deterioration or vandalism on the signs and structures around the trailhead. Second would be quarterly walkthroughs, where someone on Judd and Greg's team will do a more thorough trek along the entire trail, looking for larger scale issues like erosion, invasive regrowth, off-road convenience trails, or excessive litter. Third, we hope the village will continue to provide opportunities for public feedback, like the QR code we mentioned, through an open submission form, as well as a yearly survey asking for feedback on the trail for at least the first 3 to 5 years after it's open to the public to see how people are enjoying it. And then expanding our scope a little bit, we are hoping DeForest will continue to work with environmental contractors like Quercus or other organizations who can visit the site yearly, both to manage invasive plants and to help plant native species throughout the wetland habitat. And we hope the village will be able to bring in the WDNR for a biennial stream classification visits as a means of monitoring trout populations, and water quality of the stream. So you guys can get it classified as a class 1 eventually. We also think a WDNR ecologist or similar official would be able to do a floristic quality assessment, which could help quantify the biodiversity of plants within the wetland ecosystem.
So we'd like to end by showing this illustration that our teammate Jeremiah did. Looking forward, the plan that we've prepared and shared with you today is meant to be a general blueprint. It's a starting point and meant to be continuously modified and adapted as you see what's working for you, what's not working for you. Essentially, it's a living document that provides a framework for management. We learned a lot going through this process, and we really hope it's going to be a useful plan for you guys. We'll be passing along the full document next week. And we're really excited to see how the trail turns out and how the site can just keep improving over time. We'd like to thank Reese, Judd, and Greg for all of their guidance and support through this process. And thank you all for having us today. We'd be happy to take any questions that you guys have for us.
Thank you. I'll turn it to Judd and Greg if they have anything to add, and then we can ask questions.
I just add, it was a wonder to work with these people. They've done a tremendous job. They've created about a 37-page document that Greg, I, and Reese reviewed the draft of. All the things in it are very manageable and doable for us, right? Things they brought forward we didn't even consider. That's been a benefit to us to have that aspect of it. I'll let Greg talk a little bit about what we've got coming up as well.
Yeah, so in this year's budget, we had for 2026 as Quercus to work on the invasive species like buckthorn and stuff throughout that property. So we'll already have a start on that this coming year. And then Judd and I will be meeting with the DNR forester out there. So there's a lot of red pine out there. It's a nice forested area. So they're gonna give us ideas what we should do to the stand of trees to make sure that they're healthy and can grow bigger. Because right now they're constricted. We might have to thin them out. And I think our goal would be to make it an educational thing, hopefully with the school, to show this is a forest, this is how we manage it, this is what happens to the wood when you cut it down. Maybe it'll go to a sawmill, maybe we'll have a portable sawmill come out and saw it. They can take the lumber, build whatever they do in their shop class. So they can kind of see that whole process through and might give them some good ideas for future. But so that's what we got going for next year.
I also wanted to note that this is an issue that came up for those of you who may be new to the board. A number of years ago, it was a difficult topic for us. A lot of people in our community were upset about sharing the trail with mountain bikers and building their own ramps and things. And even though we didn't solve it right away, staff have taken it on, and I just wanted to commend them for doing that. And they kept it going and looked for ways to find a solution. So that's where it is. And I don't know, do you guys know what Quercus is? Quercus? You guys know what to tell them.
Quercus is our land steward company we work with. So they do a lot of our invasive treatment and then planting native species, right? So some of the riparian buffer zones they talked about, that's what we had planned with our stream bank enhancement plan that we're doing. So there's one aspect of it where we're reinforcing the bank, but then Quercus will take it from the bank back out with other native plants, which help filter the runoff and capture those pollutants before they get into the river, which is what the university students were talking about with that buffer zone. So we'll be looking to do that all along this section of that new 16-acre parcel we have.
Good. Questions? Tashidra Allen?
This is amazing. And university students, thank you so much for this. This was a really great comprehensive presentation. I do have two questions. One, in terms of receiving feedback, whether it's process of improvement or just positive feedback from this being here, how do you foresee us being able to monitor, tabulate, and correlate that so that we're addressing the things that are coming in? If we're getting a QR code and it's going to the website, are we going to do a survey monkey? And if people call in versus come walk in, just so that we don't make the workload so cumbersome that we're missing the things that are coming in. That's my first question. The second one, Greg, I really appreciate the collaboration with the school district. I mean, science is huge, I'm a science nerd. So being able to correlate that, not just with the high schoolers, but also our little kiddos that have to learn about leaves and trees and different things of that nature. I just want to put that out there, that maybe rather than just focusing on high school, we can just district-wide state how we can make this a combined collaborative initiative so that they know what's going on in their community.
So we have a open survey feedback on our village website, that goes to Stacy. Stacy does a great job of clearing those out to whichever department might need it. So, we certainly can use that, as a feedback tool to gather that stuff. And then I guess we would probably use Engage the Forest for if we wanted to go more in depth to get survey feedback. And do another survey down the road. The other Mountain Bike, University Alliance person, Lola, who will be here at next board meeting, she used that for a survey that I shared with you originally, right? So we got good results from that. There was 250 or maybe 300 respondents to that. So using Engage Forest and a social media platform, we can drive results back to that to find out and meet that 80% satisfaction survey that students talked about.
Okay. Alicia and then Brad.
I just kind of had a quick follow-up question, because I think she already asked it, but when it comes to the QR code, do we have any QR codes currently on any of the, yeah, okay, I was trying to think when.
On the trail,
On any of the trail signage, and if we see like it's a good feedback and manageable, is it something we would be willing to put, throughout all of our trails so we can also manage issues while people.
Yeah, so right now, the only QR codes we have are on our map signs,
Okay.
but we can totally add QR codes on any sign. It's super easy, Stacy's really good at it, so.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Remind me, this is set to be constructed next year?
We didn't have it in the budget for next year to be constructed, so it'd probably be we'd probably be looking at a 27 year budget plan. So hopefully we can work with some volunteer partners to start getting a design and doing walkthroughs, and then get an estimate on price for 27.
And then would your contract company manage the buckthorn and all that moving forward, or would your team eventually take that over?
No, so Quarkus, they'll manage the entire site for invasive species. They know what they're looking for. They do all of our stormwater basins and natural areas, so.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I thank you guys for really good work and thank you for slowing down so we could hear you a little bit and sharing with us all the hard work you did. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having us and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great job, thank you.
All right, with that, we will move on to item 4.2, which is a presentation regarding. Am I on? Okay. A presentation regarding fiscal impact tools from Alex and Tricia.
So, not Tricia, sorry. Tischler Weiss is a consultant that we use for this, and I've got Colin is online there. He just shared his vision. For a little bit of context, because I know not everybody was here when this is coming through. So when we initially went through this process to look at the fiscal impact tool in April of 2025, we awarded a contract to Tischler Weiss to basically put together a tool in a spreadsheet form to help us at a staff level analyze the fiscal impacts of various developments and also various land use decisions. So rezonings, things of that nature. And this was essentially born out of a desire to kind of wrap our heads around the growth that we've been experiencing as a community over the last close to a decade. So I'll turn it over to Colin to go through the presentation, but if there's any questions on sort of how we got to this point, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, Colin, feel free to run with it. We do have a PowerPoint, Callie or Brady or Bill, I guess if we can pull that up. There we go. And there we go.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Colin McElweeny with Tischler Bice. Are you able to see my screen? Sort of move back and forth. Can you see that, Alex?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Alex did a great job of sort of introducing the effort. Didn't want to get too far in the weeds tonight, so we just really wanted to present kind of what the impact, the fiscal impact tool is, or the FIT, what we're trying to accomplish with it, and then pulled out a few figures from some development scenarios just to show kind of in real terms what we're talking about. As Alex mentioned, this can be used for a variety of development applications, growth applications, even sort of what if scenarios when it comes to annexation or rezoning some land use. Really, the idea here is to help supplement the public policy. This would be one of those items in your development approval process, addressing the fiscal side of that growth. A number of sort of influencing factors here. We look at your current base year, so we're thinking about your current budget. What is the cost to hire new police officers? What is the cost to buy more land in current dollars, but also what is your current level of service? And so what are the number of acres you have per person for parks, or the road maintenance costs associated with vehicle trips within the village? And so we're using those as sort of your concrete sort of base levels. As we grow, we're going to continue those levels of service into the future. And what are the costs to continue those levels as we grow when we're looking at specific development scenarios? There's a whole bunch of sort of land use prototypes we have in there. So we're thinking household sizes by types of homes, vehicle trip rates when we're thinking retail versus office or industrial, and a handful of different levels of sort of land use or development types within those categories there. It's a 20-year projection, so you have a number of different phasing elements that can be at play in there as well. Now there's a level of marginality in these tools. We try not to take an average approach, and so we do these deep dives and public safety calls to understand really where are those drivers for police or for EMS or for fire. Break down different department staff, because you have a handful of sort of enterprise funds or TIDs that are funding portions of those staff types. And the tool is examining only that sort of tax-supported village-wide operation and infrastructure costs. And so you may have 4 clerks, for example, but one FTE is associated with the enterprise funds or the TIDs. And so we're only examining the FTE that's supported through general tax dollars. The fiscal impact analysis, just sort of, what is that? Is really the revenues, property tax, building permit fees. When we compare that to the cost to serve on the operation side, what is the road maintenance associated with those new vehicle trips? We have to hire a new police officer. What are those costs? The replacement schedules with swing sets and fire engines, and we compare the two. So in some cases you're going to see a net surplus or net deficit, and that's the fiscal impact. Just an idea, sort of visualization of how that model, that Excel worksheet works. Is we have these land use profiles in a development scenario. So Alex or Bill will input, this 20 unit subdivision or a 10,000 square foot retail space into the tool, and that will sort of flow through our demographics. We'll project out population and jobs and police calls and vehicle trips. Then that flows into the cost side of the tool, but also the revenue side. Capital costs, like expanding infrastructure, but then also impact fees for parks and fire. And then you'll ultimately get a sort of results database, let's say, with a number of different outputs related to the costs and revenues. Now you're going to have some development scenarios that have positive impacts. What does that mean? Well, that development supports additional operations or expanding facilities necessary to accommodate that growth. Really helps sort of provide that long-term fiscal health and sustainability to the community. Now, if there are negative impacts, what does that mean is you may have to lower your levels of service, increase revenues or delay capital expansion. There's other ways of looking at, developments, and so the fiscal impact should just be one of those sort of items when you're going through the approval process. There's also ways of examining that fiscal impact, that monetary sort of impact to the budget, and another one would be the break-even analysis. And so you might have two developments. They both create an overall surplus to the city or to the village, but one breaks even, right? There's a sort of return on investment to the city over 5 years, and that's actually better, compared to a development that might take 10, 11, or 12 years to break even. Not wanting to dwell too much into sort of all these slides, but a fiscal impact is different than an economic impact. Those economic impact analysis, they're looking at the economy at large. And so it's not necessarily your budget that they're examining. There's going to be benefits to the public, but also more so to the private sector in these economic impact analysis. And they're more regional. You might see a, Dane County or potentially a, statewide economic impact analysis. And they might have big grand numbers when it comes to the economic job generation and salaries and spending associated with a certain development, but that might not translate specifically to your budget. And so it's important to understand the differences there. This tool is also different than the annual budgeting process that you go through. Municipal budgets are revenue constrained, right? We can only gather as much revenue as possible, and we have to fit those costs within that budget year over year, where these fiscal tools aren't revenue constrained. And so that's where you're get surpluses or deficits, really to forecast those expenses needed to maintain that current level of service. Number of uses with these tools. You can, along with sort of development scenarios, you can do some sensitivity testing on property values. That's the main revenue driver for the village. And so you might get, one development scenario, 100 single family homes, and run sensitivity testing on, 100% of market value, 80% of market value, 60% of market value, and how does that influence the overall fiscal impact. You can do sort of informal, internal testing, sort of what if scenarios. If you're looking at it, your tract of land, zoned industrial, but what if we rezone it to single family development, and what would the revenues associated of that be if it builds out compared to cost to serve that new development. Now this is in Excel form, so it's not necessarily a black box. Excel can be pretty daunting in itself, but it is sort of very, I would say, malleable in a way. If you have good understanding of Excel, which your team does, they are able to sort of flow through those calculations to make sure that there is transparency when it comes to these outputs. There's sort of structure to it, and so there's sort of this front end where the user includes the scenarios Then the guts of the model, right? The middle part is where all the sort of calculus, the algorithms happen. And then you get the outputs and really hopefully Alex and his team or the other village staff will really be working with the beginning and the end, not the middle, because that is where all the work has been done to hopefully calculate those impacts. So I wanted to sort of go through just kind of, a few slides here of how the user is going to input the tool into the tool and the outputs of certain scenarios. So in Excel, so sort of rudimentary, screenshots here, but you could go up to 3 scenarios. You can look at, one scenario and 3 different sort of sensitivity testing or 3 separate development applications. In this case, we have the Homestead Edition, Bueller Farms in the Quick Trips campus. Then the user includes if it's in a TID or not, and then which TID they're in. The model will then put out the sunset year. So it's important to think about if it's in a TID when it sunsets, because those property tax revenues are kept within the TID until it expires. And that does have a very meaningful effect on the impacts within this tool. So when we go through the results here, keep in mind that Homestead is within a TID through 2030, and the other 2 developments here are not in a TID. Then the user will include sort of those detailed growth projections. This is, I believe, for Homestead Edition. So there were 59 total single-family homes. You can see it broken down by 7 different types of home types. There's different, demographics and demand associated with different types of homes, and we're trying to capture that here. And then you have about 13, I believe, or 14 non-residential or commercial types there. So this development included also a small scale retail of 4,000 square feet. You can see it sort of constructs within the first couple of years of the 20-year period. A little bit more about those land use assumptions. On the residential side, we're looking at persons and students per home, vehicle trip generation, police calls, fire and EMS calls, highlighted, and sort of as redder it gets, the higher that factor is. And so actually your single family homes with 4 bedrooms or greater have the highest impact on most of these demand indicators. Fire and EMS calls are greatest for the age-restricted single-family home and multifamily home. That might not be a surprise there, but diving into the sort of call databases to understand that. And then a variety of commercial types here and the demand indicators. Now, really important, I kind of touched on this, is the property tax and the element there, sort of the nuance with the TIDs is there's property tax being generated, but those are being kept in the TIDs until it sunsets. And the fiscal impact tool, is only examining those village-wide services and infrastructure. And so until it expires, those revenues aren't showing up in the TID, and that does create pretty substantial deficits year over year until it sunsets. There are other revenues, service charges for services, building permits, impact fees, but a vast majority is that property tax. And so there's a real big sort of bifurcation of if it's in a TID or not. Different ways of examining costs. So here are all the different village-wide tax-supported departments and divisions that we're examining, anywhere from general government, police, fire, public works, parks, and community development, and including the library as well, and different demand indicators. So we're really trying to not just say, hey, as the population grows, everything is going to grow with it. There's different ways of examining those costs. Also, and we did produce a sort of user manual that goes into sort of the nuts and bolts here, but the FTE is then broken down, only looking at the tax supported portions. So for example, on the administration department, there was sort of rolled up admin and specialists FTE staff. There's 8 of those, and 4 of them were associated with tax supported operations. So half of them were supported through enterprise funds, which be your water rates, sewer rates. What was the other one? But yeah, your enterprise funds, and then the TIDs also supporting some of that FTE. There's a capital component to this too. So you have your general government, the village hall is going to expand as you hire more FTE. Public works facility is going to expand with vehicle trips. Your parks are going to expand based on population. So just giving you an examples here of so the level of detail that the FIT is examining. You're going to have a couple of sort of screenshots of the end results of these scenarios. So you have your Homestead Edition in the orange, Bueller Farms in the blue, Quick Trip Campus in the purple there. The first two had a residential component, some single family homes, and then multi-family homes in the Bueller Farms. And then the Quick Trip Campus was that large sort of distribution warehousing application. Now we're going to get into a lot of numbers, a lot of dollar signs here. So this is the revenues. So we're sort of, examining these separately, revenues over 20 years. This is in thousands. And so, for example, the Bueller Farms actually generates the most revenue, $11 million over a 20-year span. The other two, about half of that. 20 years is kind of hard to sort of, comprehend some, that's such a long time period. So sometimes we look at the annual average over the 20 years. That's more like 384,000 for the Bueller Farms. That's the revenue side. There's expenditures, breaking that all down by the different departments I showed. You also have capital expenditures. So big element here on the Bueller Farms is we're generating a whole bunch of more residents. And so to continue our park level of service, we're going to have to expand our parks through acres and developing those acres and trails. And there's a cost associated with that. And that's about $2.5 million over 20 years for the Bueller Farms. Different ways of looking at these net fiscal impacts. We can break it out by the revenues and the one-time capital revenues and expenditures. And we're doing that here in this figure. You can see for all three scenarios on the top of this figure, they are generating net surpluses on the operating side. There's actually net negatives on the capital side, but if we combine those two, each one of these has a net positive to the municipal budget. Homestead Edition, about $1 million over that 20 years, or about 50,000 annually. Bueller Farms, just about the same. More revenues, more expenditures, but you end up getting a very similar result. And then the Quick Trip Campus, actually, you can see generates considerable amount of revenues compared to their expenditures. Not a lot of cost to serve that warehousing distribution center. So in this case, it's $4.5 million over the 20 years, or $200,000 annually. Kind of hard sometimes to sort of think about those in dollars. So here you can visualize those in these charts here. This is non-cumulative year-over-year fiscal impact. You can see in purple the Quick Trip Campus. Immediately right at construction is delivering surpluses to the municipal budget. So just year over year, supplying a surplus. Then you have your Bueller Farms in the blue, Homestead in the orange. And you can see year 6, was it? Year 5 is when the Homestead TID expires, and then that's where you get those net revenues coming onto the books, and getting surpluses there. And we do have replacement cycles showing up here. And so further out in near 2040, for the Bueller Farms, we had all that park infrastructure that needed to expand to address those new residents, but then we have to replace them in 10, 15 years, and that's showing up there as well. Lastly, here's a cumulative chart. Quick Trip, right? Net surplus year over year. So we're just sort of growing into the out years. But you can examine those break-even periods in the cumulative chart. So the Bueller Farm, similar overall impact to Homestead, but it breaks even, or sort of you get that surplus to the village budget earlier compared to the Homestead there. And so that's an important maybe distinction when you're thinking about these surpluses. And that was all the slides I had. Kind of went through that real quickly, but wanted to open up for any discussion or questions.
Alex, those are in our packets, right?
So the slides were not in packets, but I will absolutely make those available to everybody.
Thank you, that would be very useful.
Yeah, and I'll just add, obviously open to questions, but from a staff perspective, it's a great tool for us to do long range planning as we look at different land uses and comprehensive plans, various projects. It's an input to be combined with the rest of the analysis, right? It's not the way that we're going to run every decision, but it's a great input to those. So.
Great benchmark. We'll take questions, and I just want to thank you guys. This is again the result of some things that a lot of you brought up a while ago, looking for a way to assess what some of the costs might be or what we might expect for impact fees and things. So this has been very helpful and a good start. Questions from the board? Yes, Jim.
One question, I wanted to go back to a slide where it said single family housing, I think it was a 4-bedroom. And I wrote down it was $750,000. And I noticed you attributed it to say, at least in this example, a number of different subdivisions. And I'm just wondering, does this model allow us, say, to change the 750? Because I know we're hoping to do more traditional zoning and different things too, so I'm hoping that will be scalable.
That's a great question. And yes, short answer, yes, you can change it. But those were, I wanted to include them. You can see it in yellow. Actually, we did a few trainings with Alex and his team that the yellow cells are sort of the ones that user can change. And that would be important, right? Property tax being essentially that main revenue generator is market value, related down to assessed value is going to have a huge driver on the revenue side of the equation. So we want to make sure that is capturing truly what the costs are going to, or the values are going to be.
I'll just add that in that scenario for that particular neighborhood, that's pretty close to what is existing there for the average home, single family home there. So that would be homestead edition in that area.
Other questions from the board? I think it would be very useful to have the slides.
Sure.
I really appreciate your putting the work into this. I think this is going to be a useful benchmark for us to have as we do comp planning and other planning, and frankly, it could be helpful to the school as well. So I'm really anxious to see the actual slides and spend some time with us. So thank you. This was a good before. And sorry, I confused Tischler with Trisha. All right. Are there any
At least you didn't have to say McElweenie. That's a harder one.
Any other comments or questions? A quiet group. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was a lot of work and we all appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, we will move along then and do our updates. We've got about 7 minutes, so we will go through that and then we will start our regular board meeting and go through that agenda. So department updates, Mr. Cheney.
I don't have any.
All right. Item 5.2, Carol Thompson. No. Someday you're gonna have.
I will.
Yeah.
Coming.
All right, but we can always count on Chief Olson, 5.3, thank you.
I wouldn't want you to have too much spare time in between. Just a couple of things. We try our best to do like half of November for alternate side parking warnings, but unfortunately, somebody had a sense of humor this year and dropped a foot of snow on us, so we had to start enforcement a couple days early. So that's out and being active if you get calls. That'll be going now through April, so thanks to the public works crew. I know I spent time Saturday watching National Weather Service stuff for emergency management, trying to see where we were falling in the storm, but I talked to Greg in the afternoon. They were coming back in to plow and keep the streets open. I thought they did a pretty good job considering the wind and everything blowing the snow back, so I appreciate the partnership and working with them. The PD is going to be hosting our 7th year, so our 8th Winter Wonderland for special needs families in early January. I'll get you more on that in case you want to stop in and take a peek. We are seeing a little bit of an uptick in retail theft. It's pretty consistent this time of year, from our retail businesses, but we're deploying appropriately and trying to stay on top of that, but they're just getting hammered right now, so. And then last but not least, we invite you to follow along as our elf is making another appearance this year, so you can watch the story on our Facebook page. He's gonna be kind of an inquisitive poll with the community this year to see people's preferences around the holidays, so. That's it.
Thank you. Public service update, Trev?
I'm a Jim bandwagon. I'm very proud of my crew. They did a great job Saturday night, Sunday morning, taking care of the snow. Came fast and quick, but it was nice to have it down and know that we were ready to go and we're able to tackle that. That means the end of the leaf back truck unless we get a significant melt really quick. So I know some folks still may have some leaves at the curb that we didn't quite get to or other things. You know, when this all goes away in the spring, we'll get that leaf back out for 1 or 2 trips early spring to get whatever's left over, so. Apologize for that. We don't have on the agenda for this meeting that water area service supply service plan. We'll bring that back December 16th, for your approval of that, so we can get it submitted by the end of the year for the DNR. And heard back, we had a couple comments, we're just finalizing some things in that, so we'll have that back next board meeting. And then one other thing, we were notified that we are the 2026 Wisconsin chapter of the Wisconsin chapter of the American Public Works Association for excellence in snow and ice control for a population 10 to 25,000 people. I want to thank Greg. He's going to deflect. But Greg jumped on this very quickly back in probably 2020, 2019, somewhere in 2018, and was instrumental in making sure that we do proper ice techniques or salt, ice management techniques with proper salting, adding beet juice to that, calibrating our machines so we're not putting on too much salt, which has probably saved the use of 1/3 of the amount of salt that we had done in the previous years. So there's 3 categories, small, medium, large. We're in that medium group. So we'll be awarded that at the Public Works, the Association of APWA Wisconsin chapter meeting this spring. And then we were automatically nominated for the national APWA. So that conference is in Cleveland. We had already planned to attend. So this just happened to be, I don't know that we'll actually win at the national level, but we're going to go to that conference for snow and ice control as well. So it'll be a good thing. So, but pretty proud of what we do here. So
Thank you, and we're proud of you too. The streets were cleared, emergency vehicles got through. I got out of my driveway. It was great. So thank you. All right, Alex, community development, nothing. Other than we did start demolition, right? Okay, demolition up on the corner where the old liquor store is. Administrative services update, Callie, do you have anything?
Yeah, just real quick, on November 24th, the village received a petition for direct legislation. So there is a 15-day period for review of that petition, which we are in now. The date that it is due, the petition review will be done is December 9th. So more to come at the next meeting, but right now it is in the review process.
All right, thank you. 5.7, community enrichment update and recreation. Is that you? Are you Sam N, Callie?
Yeah, I'm Trisha tonight, so our Sam or Grease. This week we have the holiday tree lighting, the candlelight hike, and we still have our shop local event going on, even though it was a snowy day on Saturday with that kicking off. And then I know we kind of chatted about it before the meeting started, but Reese had her baby on Friday, baby boy. And then Sam's been busy with basketball. He has currently 198 kiddos signed up for K through 1st and 2nd grade leagues. So, and he has 59 signed up for the traveling league basketball. So busy time this time of year for everyone.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's all wonderful. Anything else? Yes, Jan. When does the basketball start?
That would be a question for Sam. I know he's like organizing.
It hasn't started yet.
No, not yet. No, I think it's after the new year, I wanna say. It's usually in January. I know where he's working on all the bags and stuff like that, so I think it's in January, so. But that would be.
Yep, Sam's.
Okay, perfect. The travel basketball already started with practices, and then the in-house will start right after the first of the year.
Thanks, Sam.
Yep.
And what time is the tree lighting?
The tree lighting is from 5 to 7. On Wednesday, 5 to 7.
Thank you.
And the candlelight hike is 5 to 7 as well at Western Green.
That same night?
Friday.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. I will ask if there's anything else to come before this body in the work session. If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So we'll.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We will adjourn at 6:01 p.m. and I will note we'll take a brief break, 5 minutes, guys, and then we will start our regular board meeting. All right. I will call the village board meeting together on December 2nd at 6:10 p.m. I would ask Kelly to note roll call. I would ask Jan to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a couple of announcements for me, and then I don't know if Bill has any. The one thing I will ask people to note is that our regular sound and camera system is down. The staff have put together this other system, thank you Amazon, to work tonight, but it's a little different. So we may be looking in different places to see screens. Screens you guys I hope can see is this one. We don't have our monitors here underneath either, so we're trying to sort through all of that. But thank you, Judd and Greg worked a lot of time to get this all set up for tonight, and we appreciate it, we do. The other announcement I would have for tonight is you'll note that we have public appearances appearing under specific item numbers so that we can have comments on items on the agenda and then again at the end. So if you're here for a non-specific agenda item, we will have those general public appearances at the end of the agenda. We have a number of business items to get through. So unless someone else has an announcement, Callie, Brett, Randy, Bill, we will proceed with our consent agenda. And I would ask for a motion. Well, first, is there either item, does anybody want separated?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, if we have a motion, do we have a second? Excuse me, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries, well, opposed. Motion carries, it's approved, thank you. Presentations, there are none listed. Old business, there's none listed, so we'll move to new business. And the first item on our agenda is one brought forward by a trustee, and that is 8.1, discussion regarding boardroom decorum, meeting standards, and public appearances. And we will have Bill and Tashida on that thing.
So as stated, this item was requested to be added onto the agenda by trustee Allen. primarily in regards to processes within the boardroom. And I understand other trustees, had questions also about the quorum, kind of what some of the meeting standards are. And as you've seen on the agenda here, we've made some changes to, where that the public appearances or the public comments are. However, if we are to make any changes to, how public comments are to be, regulated, that is by policy, so, and adopted by resolution, so any changes thereof, will need to be, amended by resolution. Do note that we, as far as processes, those board meetings and processes, that's in the ordinance, so chapter 1, I believe section 107. And so if there's any changes there, we would need to first draft an amendment to that ordinance. We don't currently have a policy on boardroom decorum. That's the third category. And so if the discussion goes there tonight and there's a desire to add a policy on boardroom decorum, we would have to bring that back to you. Item 8.1.3, discussion and possible action, simply provides an opportunity for you to take action as to direct staff to address these items and bring it back, not necessarily on the ordinance or policies.
Oh, okay, I would ask Tashira, do you have any comments you want to make? Yes.
Thank you so much. I did ask for this to be put on the agenda so that we could discuss it further, or just even take a look at it. Just noticing how our board members flow or how our board meetings flow. I wanted us to just take a step back to see if there was a way that we can address one, just having a seamless, transparent, but also collegial and respectful way of proceeding. I love Robert's rules. I feel like that approach allows for us to have meetings that are concise, to the point, with some decorum, and everyone understands how they flow and different things of that nature. One of the things that I also noticed a growing, it's been growing in our meetings, that how we flow when we're discussing items, and whether trustees are addressing the chair versus addressing each other. The fact of the matter is we all represent the community. We're all talking to different community members. And so we're bringing back a holistic, robust perspective. And so it would be nice to be able to express that and share that without having a whole lot of back and forth. Because people really aren't privy to that, especially if they're online. It's really hard to follow, to understand what's going on. And so as it pertains to just the flow of the meeting and how we address topics and address the community and address one another, I think, you know, in light of everything that's going on, that's one of the quick fixes that we can have in terms of bringing back stability, continuity, respect, and also getting through our budget items in a timely fashion. You know, we get out really, really late. That's because sometimes we're just going back and forth when we could just continue the topic and move forward. So I really didn't have anything about public appearances. It was really more about the flow, decorum, and how we can bring back the focus when we get together and meet as a group.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from other board members? Yeah.
I'd say I've been on planning and zoning for quite some time and on the village board, but this, I'm gonna go even farther back to when I was a president or council chair, I guess is the term for at a church, and we had controversial things. I mean, we have controversial things here too that we talk about. And I know one thing that I very much focused on is when we had large public input from the congregation, but that everybody in the public was addressing me as a chair. They weren't addressing other people, because there's an apt for people to start addressing people out on the floor, say like Jane, you mentioned like applause and stuff like that. It's like, no, you're addressing, say the council or the trustees here, but specifically you're addressing the talking to the president, so the focus stays on an individual or the board, not necessarily everybody else in the room. And I also did that, say, as the board too, when the trustees talk, that you're actually talking to the president, not necessarily other board members. And when somebody has the floor, or that's a term that I use, I think it's a term probably used in Robert's rules, that you have the floor till you relinquish the floor. So it's your turn to talk until you're done, and I know that was just something particular I did back then. I still try to do it to the best extent I can now, but I know I've let that slip myself too. But I think that is a good comment that they talk about in Robert's rules or whatever is that I think does really help the meeting flow more cordial.
Okay. Others? Brad, Alicia, Jane?
I'll just piggyback on agreeing with what Tashidra and Jim are saying along the lines of, communication and the flow of the meeting and, trustees addressing other trustees. I don't think that we should be doing that, and that's been happening. So I'm along the lines with you guys.
Okay. And Wayne? Do we have any comments or suggestions for how you might like to resolve some of this? All right.
I know that there's a lot of different trainings that the league has in terms of Robert's rules, and it's really robust, and it would take a really long time, so I was wondering if maybe the staff can put together some of the things, because you're at these meetings with us as well. And I think staff feedback is imperative, because we're a team, we're a family, and I think maybe in terms of Robert's rules, it's robust, it's a whole thing, and everybody implements it in different ways. Maybe we can just take a step back and the staff can take a look at what are some of the rules that would definitely help to enhance our meetings, where the constituents are feeling heard, trustees are feeling heard, and the meeting is flowing in a way. And then maybe get that information back to all of the trustees so that we have a unified understanding of what they are, and that we can implement them, put them forward, but then hold each other accountable, and really getting permission from one another, because we're all adults, right? We're gonna do what we're gonna do as adults, but maybe as a group, a cohesive group, we can agree to follow and then agree to hold each other accountable, because one of the things I don't want is to have all these different ideas and rules with no teeth and no way to implement them or no way to have follow through. So that would be my suggestion. Robert is really huge, but we don't need to take all of it, just what will help us be more efficient, so that when constituents come to the meeting, they're really getting what they need, and that's information from the board, decision and discussion without a lot of static. And if you're online, you can really pay attention and hone in on what's going on and not feel like you're lost in translation. That was my suggestion.
Bill or Al?
I believe that the way that the ordinance is written is that there are specific procedures to be followed by ordinance, and then there's a reference to Robert's rules in the ordinance. So if there's a specific process or procedure that you want followed, I'd recommend that be pulled out if it's different from Robert's rules. But we can take a look at that and bring back some suggestions, and go from there.
Okay, Jim?
Here's one thing that I've sort of stood on is I remember reading in Robert's rules about a small committee that you're given a lot more discretion, say for instance, like the chair actually stating opinions and different things like that. And that's, I'll say, a lot of the way we function, say like for sure, like the planning and zoning and other committees I've been on. The chair can control the meeting a bit more when it's a small committee. So I know in those instances, we don't necessarily follow, say, Robert's rules to a T because of that, say that whatever I read. And I guess sort of to go along with what Tishu just said, I'm a bit wondering or asking the staff is like, how far do we go outside of Robert's rules? And maybe if we knew what we're doing outside of Robert's rules. I think we do it traditionally, so it's sort of become policy or unwritten policy, but it'd be nice to know what those are to actually have the knowledge to say, yeah, that is what we wanted to do. And I wonder, I guess a follow-up question maybe for Alan. Mr. Ryder, those small committees, does that apply to the village board? I know we're still a small committee based on the number, but being that we're statutorial in whatever are we in the Wisconsin Constitution or statutes? Does that put us out of being small committee?
No, I mean, Robert's rules is not required by statute. Roberts is designed for big groups like Congress, the United Nations, state legislatures. There are exceptions for small bodies, generally less than a dozen people is considered a small body. A lot of the formality doesn't apply, even under Roberts when you're applying those rules. But a lot of it does. I mean, for example, if you want to strictly follow Roberts, you're right, you address all your comments to the chair, and you address the chair only as Madam Chair. Okay, or Madam President. Every time you refer to her, you refer to her as Madam President. Everybody here is referred to as trustee, whatever. Do you want that formality, or are you a family, as Trustee Allen mentioned? So I mean, you can go as formal as you want. If you go with the strict Roberts rules for a large organization, you're going to be very formal. Okay, you're not going to be collegial. You're going to be the people who know the rules are going to be able to use those rules against people who don't know the rules. You know, those are the downsides of getting too rigid in the rules that you apply. Certainly, there are some things in Roberts that you don't follow that would make your meetings run quicker. For example, a trustee only gets to talk twice, and that's never been enforced. And I'm not suggesting you enforce it, but if you want to shorten your meetings, you want to make them go more smoothly, people are going to have to figure out what they want to say when it's their time to say it, and because they only get two chances. Okay, you know, do you want us to suggest those kind of rules to you, or not? I mean, that's kind of what I think Bill and I are thinking right now is, if we're going to come up with a set of rules, where do you want us to fall on the line of formality versus congeniality and full exchange of ideas, that type of thing?
Yes, Colleen?
Little research at the Wisconsin League of Municipalities. Little research into some of this in the Wisconsin League of Municipalities, and they indicate what they call the Goldilocks principle, where you don't go too far this way, you don't go too far this way, you find a nice middle ground. I personally do not want to end up with the formal Robert's rules. I mean, I think clearly we stick to those in terms of motions and, you know, things like the running of the meeting. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Find a nice middle ground.
One thing I will say is most of the times we have used the ordinance, historic practices, and Robert's rules. Robert's rules have never dominated. They have been used. For instance, in Robert's rules, in tighter meetings, when I've been in larger forums, I can say you have 1 minute or 3 minutes or 4 minutes to respond. No duplex questions. I mean, we can limit board input into a topic, use a round robin fashion, and not come back to you until we're done. I mean, there are a lot of things that can be done to make the meetings go faster. Structuring the agenda differently is one thing we're trying. Because I agree, we need to get through the business of the board. This is a business meeting for the village. That being said, we want to have room for input. We want to have room for people to listen and make good decisions. And, you know, what you're interested in, what your expertise is, from my experience, has always dominated what kinds of comments you make. And we've tried to allow for that to happen. But, you know, I think the first thing we should all do, my recommendation, is to read the ordinance. I don't know if all of us have read and understand the ordinance that runs our board meetings. And I think that we should do that. We can enforce decorum and keep things moving. We need to pay attention to getting the business of the village taken care of. And hearing from, getting input, and we also need to think about where we're getting that input. Is it just during public presentations? Is it at hearings? Is it at information sessions? What other time do we need to put in to hear those things? So as I've thought about it, that has been my inclination to think about are we going to do some of this historic? Are we going to move on? You know, how are we going to deal with this? So I throw that out there. Yes, Brad.
I think that Colleen's absolutely right that there is a middle ground that we can hit. We can tighten some things up. But I would hate to sit here and stifle input from any of us that is supposed to be discussion. And sometimes somebody says something that sparks something, another question in me. And I mean, we're here to ask those questions, make sure we get the answers about things that are being presented to us. So we're going to stifle and do that, or we're not doing our jobs right. I would hate for us to sit here and Madam President, wait for somebody to talk favorably about the subject and then disagree about the subject before anybody else can say anything else on the other side. So there's a lot of things that if we run this strictly, it's just not going to be conducive to moving the meeting faster. It's going to slow things down, I think, or just stifle input, and we're just going to check a box and move on. And I think there's a middle ground.
Thank you, Brad. Any other comments or input? No? All right, I guess with that, I would ask that the board members take the action of making sure you've all read the ordinance and think about it, and if you have feedback, let myself or Bill or Al know, and we will proceed from there. Anything else? Yes, Jim.
I guess with our research, is it just the ordinance or do we have policies? I guess, can you just let us know what we are reviewing, or it doesn't have to be now, but maybe in an email later?
The only thing that you have in writing is is what's in the ordinance, section 1.07, I think it is. And your policy on public appearances. I think those are the only two documents that you have.
Okay. All right. If that is the end of our comments, we will move on to 8.2, resolution 2020, unless there were no public appearances registered on this item. All right. 8.2, resolution 2025-108, a resolution approving an agreement for Quick Trip Inc. to sponsor the Village of DeForest Independence Day fireworks celebration. Tricia, the real Tricia, is going to run us through that. So thank you. And Bill is here to provide supportive information. It's exciting. You wanted to get someone to do this.
Yeah, we're excited to share that Quick Trip is excited to help cover some of the cost of the fireworks for us for our 4th of July celebration. And they're presenting to the, it's a contract for a couple of years, or it's a term contract for us for 5 years. That's what we're looking for. So I'm bringing it to the board for your approval. They're always looking to be a part of our community and trying to support us, and they're just a great company to have here in the DeForest area. So, yeah, so turn it over to you guys for any kind of questions, or if Bill has anything to add, so.
All right, trustee.
You can call me Colleen. I would like to make a motion to approve that.
Second. We have a motion in seconds. Who was this? She did this first. Okay. Any other comments, questions, or discussion? Yes, Jim?
Thank you for acting on this quickly, but I just note on the agenda that we have public appearances before the action, so do we?
We don't have anyone registered on that item.
Just checking.
All right. Yes,
I just want to say good job and really going after figuring out a way where we can still have fireworks and still celebrate as a community. I know that with the changes that have happened over the last 2 years, it was one of the things that almost didn't happen. And so I just want to say that, and I also want to say that I really appreciate the partnership that Quick Trip is having with our community. They are invested and they show up all the time, showing that they're invested and want to be a collegial partner with the Village of DeForest. So I hope that you can convey, you know, our appreciation for their partnership and continued partnership with DeForest.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I would ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries, and I hope you'll share our appreciation.
yes.
All right. Item 8.3. This ordinance 2025-038, an ordinance amending section 2.05 of the DeForest Municipal Code regarding procedures for expenditure of village funds. Bill and Al are going to do a staff presentation. There are no public comments registered on this one, so we will listen to their presentation.
Yeah, so this is having to do with current language and ordinance in regards to purchases and procurement for village purchases and with village funds. So this is an item we brought the policy forth in a previous work session meeting, and you had an opportunity to review that. That policy is the next item on the agenda to be adopted, or requesting for that to be adopted by resolution. However, this change the ordinance here does amend the language to allow for us to make changes and to defer to the resolution and policy as the procurement process.
Okay, any comments or questions? Did everyone understand that? You guys are a little hard to hear.
Yeah.
And Jim, you are, when you turn it down, then the rest of us don't hear it. So, did everyone hear everything? Okay. Comments or questions on this ordinance? Okay. If there are no other comments, I would ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve ordinance 2025-038.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? I asked already.
I missed it.
You did, you were quick.
Fell asleep.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, resolution 2025-109, a resolution adopting a purchasing policy for governmental purchasing and contracting. Bill and Al. We'll have a presentation. I know of no public appearances registered for this one.
So this is adoption of the policy via resolution. Happy to walk through the policy itself. As stated previously, it defines, policy goals, and objectives in regards to purchasing, things like equipment, contracting, also talks about and talks through, the different definitions of what those purchases are or may be, the sources of it. Talks about form of quotes, form of bidding, surplus property, and then also defines the different roles, and what limits, are, required for each of those roles. We do have, again, limits defined, so at a department head level, you can approve or call up to $5,000. Village administrator and, finance department from 5,000 to 25,000. And then anything above, 25,000, would be, brought back to the village board in the case that it's not in the budget. In the case that it's in the budget, would be, could be approval by the village administrator and or, the department head or advocated, I believe, by the village board. It talks through, how vendor payments are made, talks to purchasing process, procedures, and specifically construction projects, as required by public bidding, by state statute, follows that process. Talks about petty cash and handling of petty cash. And then, talks a little bit more about some of our regular purchases. So purchases that we do repetitively, equipment purchasing, where, as you know, we've moved, a number of our equipment purchases from our operational fund to our fund 400, which is our capital fund. And being able to purchase those on a rotation. Joint purchasing, bulk purchasing, and then discussion of, how do we, dispose of surplus property. We did add from the last version a conflicts of interest clause into this, and the language reflects what's currently in chapter 28, which is the code of ethics. So I'll pause there for any questions. Again, this has been in your, packet, and so, we think that this is a fair policy. It represents, generally the practice that we have in regards to purchasing, and contracting. But we are open to suggestions.
All right, and this was in your packet and you've seen it, most of it or most all of it before. Al, do you have anything to add before I go to Jim for a question?
Just one small point of information, the policy is written to require public bidding in any public construction that's over $25,000, which is current state law. There is a bill pending in the legislature to raise that to 50,000. At that point, if that is adopted, you'd have to determine whether you want to continue bidding everything over 25,000 or if you want to change the policy to up it.
But at this point, it's still
It's still 25.
Okay, great. Jim?
I was gonna make a motion to approve resolution 2025-109 as written. I do have say 4 discussion points, but I want to just start off with that motion.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So what are your points of comment?
The couple, say, policies I would offer to suggest change, but it's obviously open to all of our opinions. But I thought the amounts for the department heads and the administration and financial director were a bit low, and I would offer it to go from 20, right now it was 5 and 25, and I was suggesting 25 and 100. mainly for the ease of, say, conducting business, and also those were all items that would have been approved in the budget. That's my understanding. So I feel like we already would have put in our input as a village board. So I'd offer that. Another one I wanted to bring up was under construction, that, and it talked about approval of something with the village engineer. And the way I remember reading it is that it was any change order have to come to the village board. And I just personally, I guess I'm relating it too much to my job and not necessarily village practices, but I just know most projects seems to have change orders, so I would just think we should have authority for the village engineer if it's 25 or 100,000, that they would just have the authority to move forward. I guess in my opinion, just knowing how expensive asphalt and other construction is, I would offer the limit to be 100,000 if the village engineer felt it was appropriate. Not necessarily having to come to the village board though. Another one that I questioned was the petty cash at a $3,000 maximum, and I thought that was high. So I'd little be interested in why it's 3,000. I thought it could be closer to 1,000 or even 500. I thought in other organizations I've heard how they're lowering the amount of petty cash, so I'd be curious again why it's 3,000 for us. And then the fourth and final thing is the ethics conflict of interest. And again, this goes back to my history. I thought $100 is pretty high, where at least in my state job, I pretty much run on a $0, where I don't even accept say a $5 beer. So to me, the $100 is something that we can accept without being a conflict of interest seems high. So I would offer for that to be lowered to say $25. But again, I don't know if that's something we want to do right now, because then the policy wouldn't follow what's in our ethic code. So that would be an additional change we need to make if we would move it to 25. Those were the four things I wanted to offer for discussion, I guess.
Okay. Other comments or questions related to his suggestions? I would turn to staff on that. You know, one of the things Carol and Bill spend a lot of time in is monitoring, controlling, and recognizing both the need to get things done and the need to have certain levels of authority. So I would ask Carol about the auditors and Bill his management comment.
In regards to the first point and the limits, as the amount already in the budget, I believe staff would enjoy the flexibility to be able to approve purchases and contracts up to those higher amounts. We started conservatively, and we looked at other policies, and 5 was generally comparable to what other communities are doing. And so I think the board needs to decide, you know, how much flexibility you are providing to staff to engage in those contracts and or those purchases, and what comfort level you are at. That being said, we do have checks and balances through the staffing level, not just within the department, but through the department, and then also through the finance, and then you see the check registers here at the village board also. So I'm not going to argue against going up to a higher limit. I think we are able to effectively manage that and be more efficient that way. In regards to point number 2, I believe that's the change orders. The way that it's written provides flexibility now for the village board to make those exceptions on the change orders on a project by project basis. I think if we want to write it in an exception for a specific amount, I think we just have to keep in mind that not all projects are created equal. And that some projects may not ever reach that 100,000 and others well, so again, we can do it several different ways, it's whatever you prefer to have, and we can add that language if you want to put that maximum amount in there. In regards to petty cash, and I have other department heads here, maybe will speak to this, it's my understanding that there are departments or parts of our operation that would spend up to 3,000. I see Sam has raised his hand that he may want to talk on this subject. But that's a number that we felt comfortable with. We do have practices in place that oversee and regulate that. Sam, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I kind of had like a question slash maybe why that amount was there. I'm not sure if this is a reason why, but just something that I kind of thought of was like the athletic complex and being able to have change on hand. That could be one reason why it's at that price. Again, not for sure that's the reason why, but just one thing that kind of popped to my mind when it was mentioned.
Okay. Kara.
Yeah, Sam beat me to it. That's what I was gonna tell you. It's the athletic complex. So we're probably talking about multiple drawers. So they get 3,000 at the beginning of the season and they stock their drawers and then they turn it all in at the end of the season. So we have one petty cash fund that's 3,000, but most of our drawers are gonna be under 1,000. But because of the athletic complex, we just put it at that limit because that's typically what we give them. So I mean, we could set it at $1,000 and then we could maybe divide it up into drawers to keep it under and have each drawer be sort of its own petty cash account, but we just give them that 3,000 at the beginning of the season. I think we also have, for the market. Well, for yeah, for the farmer's market, I think there's also a checking account that we just kind of consider to be a petty cash fund. And I think that one may have a little higher limit too, because they pay for some entertainment and things like that, that sometimes can run higher. So that we give them a little more cushion to work with what they need to.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Yes, Colleen.
Just a comment. It sounds like if we were to start lowering that amount, we're maybe hamstringing some of our
Yes.
village department. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they run into cash flow issues from one week to the next. It's just a matter of making sure they have what they need to do, what they need to plan ahead for. You know, and then obviously, as it's a seasonal thing, the revenues may come in later, but they have to get started in the beginning. So that's kind of what they use that for, to get started.
I guess the first thing that popped into my head was, like $3,000 in the second best drawer is a bit large.
Right.
But when you put it in terms of the athletic complex, farmers market and whatever else.
And then park too.
The park. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Yes.
Carol, can you, while you're here, can you address the other issues that Trustee Simpson brought up?
Sure, remind me what the other issues were.
Well, maybe it's you or Bill, I'm not sure which, but just tell me where the numbers came from. The change orders and, those type of things.
So the current numbers in the policy right now. So the current policy, the policy as written right now, the numbers come from our research into other purchasing policies and communities of similar size that actually have an updated purchasing policy. I'm assuming that 25,000 is referenced off of what the current maximum is for public construction. So, so that's where the numbers come from. Again, you can be anywhere on the spectrum and that, you know, our previous code, was $500. But I know that we have current purchases that in practice are currently over, even $100,000, but is in the village budget that we don't usually bring back, and that's changed over time. So, as part of our strategic plan to standardize and record some of these practices, this was something that has come up, that we saw a need for. I will say we don't need to pass the resolution tonight, and we can be able to bring it back in a cleaner version, so that we can do it in one fell swoop.
Jim?
I thank you for all this discussion, and I think what I heard is that there is staff support for upping the limits from 5 and 25 to 25 and 100. I guess I would offer that as a friendly amendment, and I think that would be the only change I'd be asking for.
Okay, Bill, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to address the last point here, Jim had on the $100. And my suggestion there would be to, update the ordinance first, and then come back and make the updates to the policy. In addition to that, what may, be helpful to us as staff, as I've seen some spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, is provide staff and village attorney the flexibility to make those simple changes to the policy as they come, as we discuss them.
Okay.
So again, I would ask for a friendly that would include changing the limits to 25 and 100, and give the staff the flexibility to fix the grammatical and spelling errors. I forget who was the second. Thank you.
Yes, that's fine.
So we're passing the resolution with those changes if we vote for it right now, just to clarify, so everyone's clear on what we're doing. Questions about that? I would also comment that Carol has, works with the auditors, and where all of this is audited on a regular basis, and they look at our checks and balances, and they look at all these funds and our systems, and we've always had a clean audit, so thank you. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve with the friendly amendment that Jim and Colleen suggested. Yes.
Bill, did you say the current limits are 500?
In the ordinance language that was recently changed, that older version is $500.
Just thinking about the drastic leap up to 100,000, I would feel more comfortable doing, doubling it to 10 and 50, because we may all trust who we have here, but you get one person who makes the wrong oversight or purchase, and also you have $100,000 gone, and that's quite a leap from where we're at currently.
Okay. Comments, questions? Yes.
So I will agree with Brad. I feel that 100,000 is too much. But I could go for 50.
Okay, there's a little bit of a bid going. All right, other comments or discussion, Al?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out and remind everybody, these are only for budgeted items, so they had to have been approved in the budget before the expenditure can be made, if that makes a difference.
The other thing is, it could give us the flexibility when the price of asphalt goes through the roof or other project costs get to be driven by the market and not by our budget. for staff to make a decision as long as it's within the parameters. I would ask staff. I see Judd getting up to speak.
Remember, right? Enough said it, we say.
No. So to the construction part with, there's changes to there's never a project that doesn't have a construction change, so. We would just draft the resolution by which that would say you authorize us that, right? We bring back every construction bid to you that says, here's the dollar amount. And we have a contingency in there that handles for if we had those bid changes. So if it's gonna go over that amount, then we certainly have to bring it back. I don't know that we've had one project go over the set amount ever yet, at least in my tenure. We do a very good job working with Becker Engineering and keeping it in that cost line. So we'll just draft a resolution that gives us, as it said, that authority to make those changes to when there's a change order that needs to happen for a construction project. But, you know, it happens every project. It just is part of doing construction.
Okay. Carol?
Right, yeah. I was just gonna add the comment too, that if he has a project that for some reason goes way over, he sits down and we discuss, okay, here's what we have to work with, here's the dollar amount we have to spend this year, and this project went way over, so now what are we gonna do? So we will sit down and talk about how to maybe take a project that we haven't started yet and push it off to next year. That always gets reworked, and we'll come back to you if there's something that just gets way out of line with how it was budgeted.
Okay. All right, well, now we have a lot more input to consider. So do we go with the recommendation from Jim and Colleen, or do we reduce it to 50?
That's what all.
Well, I'm just trying to decide if we're gonna we'll approve this one, or if folks want to amend it. So I'm looking for somebody to say something. Yeah, Jim?
I guess I'll just restate my opinion that I feel that the 125 is okay just because it is budgeted items, but I will not feel hurt if somebody wants to make an amendment, but that's my opinion.
Well, and here's another opportunity to, yeah. All right. Are we ready to vote on the motion? Colleen, I'm sorry.
Sorry to shoot them.
You're okay.
Once again, I just want to ask, are we hamstringing staff? You said, Judd, that generally they don't go up to 1100,000.
Well, there might be, the change order might be in that, but if we look at it as it's in the total budget, right? So if we've got a $2 million budget, we typically have 10% contingency, right? So that's $200,000. So we could have a change order, but you've already approved us to do the $2 million worth of work, right? Ideally, what we want to do is come in at 1.8. But that just doesn't, I mean, it's perfect world, that'd be great, but there's gonna be some change orders, so it's gonna be somewhere in there. That's what we have to manage, right?
Right, yeah, okay.
The purchasing thing, whether it's $5 or $25,000 is my limit. Like, when I go to buy a truck, I just now have to email Bill and go, we're gonna buy this truck, do you approve? Right? It's just one more step in the process to verify that we're doing what we said we were gonna do as a budgeted item, right? So in our capital improvement plan, or, well, not that plan, but the purchasing plan, the equipment purchasing plan, there's nothing that we're buying that's maybe the side by side, but otherwise, every truck that we buy is $70,000, right? If it's a big patrol truck, it's $250,000. Those all will get emailed to Bill and he'll just have to approve it. It's just putting more work on Bill, but that's policy, that's fine.
Okay, you ready to vote? You are. Okay, with that, all those in favor of the motion to approve the resolution 2025-109 with the recommended changes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right. We have, and the motion carries, we have approved it with the recommended changes. And I appreciate all the work that went into this. I know these are items we just have to take care of every once in a while. So let's then move forward, to item 8.5. Ordinance 2025-039, an ordinance amending section 3.03 of the DeForest Municipal Code to revise the speed limit on a segment of Northtown Road. Chief Olson.
Odd that I would come and ask you to raise the speed limit, I know, but, so this is kind of a longer one, but before the road connection in the South Industrial was made, it was 25 miles an hour, and for a good reason, because the road literally ended. Since that point, the road is constructed, engineered, much wider, much better, much safer. It's a collector street, it's not a residential area anymore. To make sure we were just not guessing what the speed limit is, we did use the technology you gave us, it's called the StealthStat. So it's just, we strapped it to the pole, it's got a solar panel with it. We left it out for a good 7 days to get the speed study, which I thought Trustee Simpson might appreciate. So we did get that data for you. It shows you the 85th percentile. It shows you the high. There is what I will call an outlier, because I don't think anybody's going 76 miles an hour down that road. So at times you'll get a combined error in the radar, and that's what that 76 is. It's an outlier error. So with that, and I talked to Greg walked this up to me. We kind of walked through it together. We think this is the appropriate action to take, so we're just asking you to raise the limit.
And can you clarify exactly where we're talking about?
So it's from Highway 19 to the jurisdictional borders, going northbound, where it comes into Windsor, and the road was now recently completed and connected. It's that area there, right past Bell Labs.
It's actually from Bear Tree North. Not from 19.
What he said.
Please repeat that. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Bear Tree North.
Okay.
From Bear Tree Parkway north to the village limit.
All right. Thank you. That's what I thought.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further questions, Brad?
Yeah, it's interesting to see the speed study, so things, I was wondering how we could get up to that speed going down that road, where is that, but, my question was there any consideration to match what Windsor has posted?
We're gonna go by the data, and I don't know how they came to what they have, so I think it's best, because that's been our consistent practice, is to match what our speed data shows us. And so that's why we recommended 35.
What do they have?
30.
And then why isn't it starting at 19 instead of Fair Tree?
That's still 25. Correct.
Okay.
And I guess, just a personal observation, I actually drove that last weekend, going somewhere. The road does bend quite a bit down from 19 down to Bear Tree, and I think, I didn't think 25 was unreasonable, and the guy was doing 76.
Oh, y'all taking them. Nice age. So this ordinance was supposed to be from Highway 19 to the jurisdictional line of Windsor, so I don't know if we can amend that with the board approval or.
I didn't quite understand.
The 35 would start from Highway 19 to the jurisdictional line of Village of Windsor. So north of.
So down
Bear
by
Tree.
the clinic and the Wings Bank.
The Wings Bank, yep. Till 35 would start there too.
Pretty curvy there. You have a question?
I would like to see it amended to go from Highway 19 if we could do that. Or can I say that since I reviewed?
Shall we amend the motion to say the speed limit is changed from Highway 19?
Are you suggesting that?
That's not the same.
I'm comfortable with that. That's what we originally, and I missed that when Al sent the ordinance over. It's my fault for not catching it.
Okay, and you want to?
I'll second that.
So we have a friend. We already have a motion in a second.
We have a motion. Colleen made the motion and Cedar second.
I know that, but now we have a friend.
To amend the original motion on 35 from Highway 19.
We can do that.
We can, although I'd like to get the exact language in the ordinance, and that's gonna take a minute because the reference to the village boundary. I put the 2,000 feet in there because there are two village boundaries. That I didn't.
Oh, that's right.
Running into, so, if you give me just a minute to measure it, I can change the language in the ordinance for purposes of the.
Okay, so where does that take us back to our original? Language,
Just give them a second.
Say one comment.
yeah, and then Bill.
Comment just to give, in a few more seconds, but I thank you for doing the speed study. I'm very happy to see that it correlated with the 85 percentile. And I know that is very important and has traditionally been important for setting speeds. And the other thing I want to say with my job, not really my job, but I was able to go to some training on speed studies and then know that the federal government is actually doing quite a bit of changes on it. In the 85th percentile still mentioned, but there's also a lot of context sensitive as far as setting the speed, like in the context of this, the location, I think it also is very fitting to be 35, so it's nice to see that they match.
I know, I was still reading it, but with the two devices we have now, the StealthStat devices, we use those anytime we bring you speed related ordinance requests. Other things, there is, the 3 E's of traffic safety, engineering, education, and enforcement, but to really look at the data is kind of why Greg and I talked about it, was going to support what the 85th percentile is at 35 miles an hour, and not just guess and say, well, maybe 30, maybe 40, right? It just doesn't make sense. All of ours are 25, 35, 45 in the village. So we wanted to be consistent with that.
All right. Bill, you had a comment before.
Oh, no, I was gonna clarify that we're waiting for, on the language before moving forward with, potentially a vote on, or, an friendly amendment to, original motion.
All right.
Can I ask you a question, Olivia? So do we own two of the stealth sticks now?
StealthStats, yes.
Or that's what they are, okay, thank you. And is there a subscription that we use, their software or something, or it's just all within the stick?
So what we've done in the last devices we purchased it, so our speed boards and the StealthStat are all custom signals devices, and they all have the ability to do traffic study reports. So for example, Bill called me one afternoon looking for data around Windsor Road and River Road. So we were able to deploy the speed board and a StealthStat to get that data for him. We did it on, I believe on Highway 19 for the traffic light to get some preliminary data. We did it there. So we'll use those different devices. They're actually pretty slick. An officer can pull up next to it, Bluetooth connect to it, and just download the data while it still sits on the pole. So it's been very, very handy to have them all operate at the same platform, and just really get the information we need for development for any other purpose.
Well, that's awesome. The reports that you gave us, they were very impressive.
I did it myself, actually.
Thank you, Jay. We're waiting a moment for Al.
So the amendment would be to change section 2. Under subsection 12 to read on North Town Road from State Highway 19, approximately 5,850 feet north to the village line.
Okay. So we had a motion and a second and a friendly and a second. I would ask, is everyone okay with this change? And we go back, we just add that to the original motion. Okay, Colleen? Yeah?
Definitely, yes.
Yes. Okay, we have two yeses, so. Understanding that, I would ask that, unless there's further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And thank you, I thought you put those out there to catch me.
Well, we have different places.
All right, it is a lovely road. Staff really did a nice job on that section. We're very pleased with it. We will move on then to, section, or 8.6, which is a resolution 2025-110, a resolution accepting a proposal for insurance services from Bear Insurance Services, Inc. Bill and Callie, and I note that there were no public appearances listed for any of the regular items on the agenda.
So the village decided to go to RFP for our insurance services. It would be for property liability, auto, the
Workman's comp.
workman's comp, the other supplies from the public works, all of those. And through that process, we received the bid with the best cost and services from Bear Insurance, which is part of the League of Municipalities Insurance Program. So this actually, the savings was quite substantial between our insurance premiums we paid last year to our premiums this year is about $63,000 less. So, and it did include all of the same, we had it all bidded out for our same coverages. And so it is all consistent with what we have had in the past.
And administratively?
I spoke with some other municipalities that do utilize this insurance. And they received very good reviews, our representative is very helpful. They have the same representative that we will have. They are helpful with getting things taken care of, and I have had conversations with our person before, previously about insurance, but with all of the changes that we had going on within the last 4 years with staff-wise, this is the year we decided to go up for RFP. We were all comfortable in our positions now, that we could take on this change if needed, so.
Okay. Bill, do you have anything to add?
Just that, the board may not see this, but staff will kind of the transition that we'll have to go through at the end of the year into the next year. We do have pending lawsuits, out there, which there's a obligation to continue, coverage, from the current firm, until those cases conclude. Anything new, any new cases or losses coming, once we're under the new carrier, we'll be with this new carrier, so.
And you're comfortable with this change?
Yes.
Okay. With that, you had a comment, Toshiba?
No, motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional comment or discussion?
I just wanted to say, I noticed the work comp, experience mine is 0.71. That's great. You guys are doing the right thing. And when I looked at this, I don't sell municipal insurance, but to me, the rates seemed really reasonable.
Yeah.
Especially like the auto section.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. With that, we have concluded our regular agenda. Item 9 is general public appearances. I see some hand motion going on here. Are we?
I didn't know there's a.
I think we're gonna switch microphones around and Brandy needs to help get that computer over there, set up the timer so that is available on Zoom and on the screen for people to see.
All right,
So
take-
you can give us.
Take 1 minute. And then we will.
That one's not working. When she puts something into it. Sure. I'll take one then.
Are there online? appearances for-
No, there's not over here. Today. Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready.
Reset.
We are ready to resume and we will finish this conversation later, ladies. The first speaker is Lois Lehman. Thank you for joining us, Lois. You are a frequent visitor and we're always glad to see you. These were your comments.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I just thought I would mention that science.
Can you start with giving everyone your name and information for the record? We appreciate that, Lois.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Lois Lehman. I live at 212 Harbor Drive in DeForest. Before we set the clock, I thought you would like to know that a very small, tiny device, electronic tag, can be applied to a monarch butterfly's wing and can track that monarch and the flight that they take. I have tagged monarch butterflies with 7th grade science classes. And we can literally, we have a tag with a number. You can literally follow that monarch butterfly and where it goes and where it stops. I thought you'd like to hear that because you talk about monarchs.
Thank you.
I'm here to talk about wildlife killing contests, something totally different that I work with different organizations. I just wondered how many of you are even familiar with this? I love it. Okay. Dane County has submitted and approved a resolution number 502. I did include that in your envelopes. That urges the state legislature to pass a law banning wildlife killing contests. There are approximately 40 or more in our state. They have gone underground. They're not transparent anymore because of the blowback from people who do find out about what is involved. So I have been talking with the Marshall Lions Club that is sponsoring such a contest and has been for many, many years. And I got a telephone call just 2 days ago telling me that, no, you may not come to our meeting. And to have a fact-based conversation about it. We don't want to hear from you. So I thought I would share with you that there's not that transparency that I have to work with. So I'm bringing this issue to you because I wonder if DeForest is interested in supporting the Dane County resolution. And
I'm sorry, Lois, your time is up.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, have a good evening.
A copy is in your comments, right, of the resolution. We have it.
I sent an email to everyone.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
resolution itself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
All right, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 other people registered to speak. We'll begin with Keegan Stradley.
Do I need to, never mind, question answered. All right, my name's Keegan. I live at 4713 County Road DM, Morrisonville, Wisconsin. Really what I'm coming here to talk about today, which I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about it, and honestly, we're tired of hearing about it as well, is the QTS data center. I know everyone continues to share information, just basically about obviously all of our concerns. You know, obviously Vienna already voted down, the annexation, and voted down that project, as well as the pollution of the water table, the water usage that is gonna affect power usage, the rising power rates, as well as false promises of the permanent jobs that they're talking, which amounts to 700 is what they're saying anyways. Shady business practices, as well as, if you wanna look into Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the 40 illegal wells that they drilled will tell you that. Harm to our ecosystem through sound and light pollution, as well as an overinflated company that's in the AI bubble that many people have talked about. And I do understand that they are tied back to Blackstone and have a lot of funds, that, hey, yeah, they could probably fall back on that, but that doesn't mean they're going to put all those funds towards this project. Plus, we invite $1 trillion company into our small community. They have a team of lawyers. You're not gonna have a chance. I hate to say it, but we're not gonna have a chance. That's my biggest fear, is that this $1 trillion company comes into our community and tears it up. And we have nothing to say about it, nothing we can do about it. So I'm coming here as a young man who, my grandfather grew up in Morrisonville, his father before him. My father in the back lives in Morrisonville. My mother lives in Morrisonville, raising my daughter there. My wife's there. This is a place that means something to me, and means something to my family, and I don't want to see it trampled on and ruined. And I just feel like everyone's looking at the check. I feel like everyone's looking at the check and not looking at the long-term impacts of what this is gonna do to our community. So yeah, I still got a minute. I guess I'll say what I wrote. QTS is coming to our community with a fistful of cash and a mouthful of lies. They put the burden of proof on our community instead of proving to us why they should be here, or proving to us why this is good for our community. They lack transparency and have a proven track record of following their own rules. And again, Cedar Rapids, Iowa will tell you that, the 40 illegal wells that they have drilled. This project will not provide the jobs they promise. It will raise the utility cost by putting more strain on the grid, pollute our water table, destroy farmland and negatively affect the people and wildlife living on or near that land. At the end of the day, all that I think this will prove to our community if it goes through with all this opposition that we've had is that corruption is live and well. Thank you.
Thank you, Keegan. The next registered speaker is Daniel Jansen.
Please state your name and identify yourself for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Daniel Jansen. This is my third contact with the board on this topic. I'm a resident of DeForest, Wisconsin. I live on Woods Glen Court, 20-year resident of DeForest. I'm here again to register my opposition to the annexation of Vienna Township land for this development and my opposition to the development itself. I went back to some of the candidate profiles that were published on each of you when you were elected to the board, and I was encouraged to see that smart growth for DeForest was a theme in at least some of your campaigns. In light of that, I'd like to request that you consider some questions about what smart growth means in the context of QTS proposal for the data center in DeForest. Is it smart growth when a carefully considered plan for the village's expansion would need to be radically modified to accommodate QTS's proposal? Have we really aborted the values that informed that plan in the short time frame since it was developed? Is it smart growth for a village the size of DeForest, closer to 5 figures than 6 in population, to believe that it could come out ahead in a deal with QTS's ownership, a $1.2 million private equity firm? Is it wise to enter into a deal underpinned by private equity in general? That's an industry that's ripe for regulation due to its reputation for job losses, asset stripping, negative environmental and social impacts. Retirement plans across the country are divesting themselves of this type of investment for this very reason. Is it smart growth to enter into a deal involving the hyperscaler industry at this time, given the well-documented unsustainability of the boom and the potential for disruptive alternative approaches to AI, dramatically changing the environment for this type of project? Recent news is filled with examples of this, and the industry is ripe for regulation itself, much like the private equity industry. That could fundamentally affect any agreement that you put into place. Is it smart growth to undertake a project of this scale in this location, just on the possibility of temporarily benefiting construction trade workers, most of whom are residents of DeForest and won't have to live with the consequences of having this in their backyard? Have you got any positives that outweigh the risks identified in these questions? Don't you already have enough information to reject this request for annexation and this development? And if so, why would we continue to linger on this topic? I encourage you to put an end to this by voting against this annexation. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Cass Summerfield.
Hi, I'm Cassandra. My address is on the form. I'm here in opposition of QTS. I think that it's a very bad idea for everyone who actually has to live here. It's terrible for the environment. I know that that's something that a lot of people bring up, but it's because it's very true. If you look at any of the other meetings that people are doing across the country, you can see severe opposition from the communities. This isn't like, this is just one company or one data center. This is across the board. All these communities are opposing this because they don't want this. They recognize how dangerous and damaging this is going to be for their future. And they don't want that. I mean, why would anybody want to destroy their future in their home? So I think it's really important to take into account how many other places have been fighting this and have been successfully able to stop this growth. I think it's also important to note that these companies are trying to squeeze these projects in before proper legislation is made. So I think that it's responsible for us to wait until there are those protections in place from our legislatures to actually make sure that we aren't going to be in a pinch or in a situation where someone with a lot of money is going to make something look good, but it will end up not being so. I think we also need to take into account the different words that they've been using on things, prioritizing energy especially, and what is considered renewable energy. I don't think a lot of people realize what all is actually part of that. And nuclear is a big part of renewable energy. So that could be a very likely energy source that they would be looking to use, just because it is more consistent than wind and solar, which are the ones that people frequently think that they're going to utilize for that. I think that there's been an obvious opposition with Vienna. I think that that should be respected. And I think that people need to recognize that this has been growing and growing and growing, and that the size of this is enormous. It's essentially the size of the majority of the neighborhoods in DeForest. So if you went from V to 94, that's essentially how long this is going to be. That's significant. Or I'm sorry, from 19 to 94 off of V. Like if you would just went right down V, that is huge and that is massive and that is going to have significant impacts. And it would be foolish for anyone to think that that wouldn't have significant impacts on the community, on the county in general. And as I had mentioned before, if it's not about the water, why are they targeting this area? I know that they like to focus on this closed loop system, but there's so many other ways that water is utilized. And I think we also need to look at water withdrawals. Like I had mentioned before, it's not just water usage. So we need to look at everything that is happening with the water, with the air. There's just a lot of factors. And I think that just like with building roads, we need to have a proper environmental impact report before anything like this even has the chance to proceed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mike DeRubis? Did I say your name right, Mike?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I made copies, I'm not sure.
thank you. That's helpful.
Good evening. My name is Mike Jervis, and I live at 416 Meadow Oak Trail in DeForest. Back in 1900, more than 40% of us were farmers. Today, it's less than 2% as automation transformed the industry. Back in the 1960s, roughly 17% of us were farmers or were auto workers. Today, it's less than 3% as automation and offshoring transformed the industry. The tech titans are very clear in their intentions to automate our jobs. A recent MIT study found that AI can already replace 11.7% of the workforce. Amazon plans to cut 600,000 jobs and automate 75% of its operations. These aren't just numbers. These are people's lives at stake. As AI becomes more ubiquitous, it will disrupt nearly every industry. Where are the supports to help us transition in this new economy? Our concerns are bigger than this single data center project. AI will impact far more jobs than this project will create. For many of us, AI is an existential threat. Without work, how will we sustain our families? Individual and property taxes make up 85% of federal funding. I'm sorry, payroll taxes, I apologize. Property taxes make up 33% of local funding. As we lose jobs and can't afford our homes, will the government stay open? We need federal and state regulations for AI and data centers. The weight of this should not be on the shoulders of local board members. I can't imagine the pressure you're under right now. The general fund for the village is less than $12 million per year. This data center project is proposed at $12 billion. Most people don't really appreciate the difference in scale between $1 million and $1 billion. If you were to count every second, it would take less than 12 days to reach $1 million. Count every second takes nearly 32 years to reach $1 billion. The sheer scale of these projects and their speculative nature are mind-boggling. A staggering 95% of generative AI companies are not yet profitable. There's a real potential for an AI bubble, and the impact would be massive. The pace of technological change is breathtaking. Potentials exist for discoveries beyond what we can imagine. But moving forward without transparency or accountability can be disastrous. Data centers are the physical manifestation of this unrelenting march of progress. Should big data dictate our future, or should we write our own story? Together as a community, we call our power back. Not everyone wants to go to Mars and have armies of AI humanoid robots. Some of us are more grounded and prefer a slower pace of life. We want to care for the earth and each other and be more intentional. We ask that you slow down and be intentional. Consider what is best for our community and for humanity. I oppose the annexation, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. That's all the registered public appearances we have for this evening. So
with that, we will, move on in our agenda to communications. Your check register was in your packet. Commission, committee, and, board minutes were also in your packet, including the DeForest Area Public Library minutes. So I don't have anything in addition tonight, other than I know staff have worked really hard to have the video and the cameras, except. Yeah, so with that, I would ask if there's any other business to come before the board. And if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're adjourned at 7:40 PM.